Hey guys, welcome back to Club Talk number 2. So glad you could make it back. Enjoy this next talk from Sammy. Text your leader if you have any questions or if you just want to chat about what he talks about. And remember to send in your pictures of you completing the game to be entered in to win a prize. So um, have a great night.
What's up, everyone? Thanks for coming back for round 2 of my talks here for summer camp. And I hope my last talk, you guys have been able to think through and talk through what I had to share. What I realized though is that I still haven't really given you kind of a sense of who I am. And I know last time I told you guys that I really love music. And I'm kind of stuck in the 90s. And so just kind of wanted to share a little story about myself. Maybe you guys can understand. So when I was in high school, we didn't have digital music. It was all on either CDs or cassette tapes. And so for us, we couldn't download anything. If we wanted a song, we would have to buy like the whole CD album, right? If we just even wanted one song, we didn't have a choice to just pick the songs that we liked. Now there was a way out of that because they would then sell what they called singles, right? And so either a cassette tape or a CD would just have one song, or maybe like an added, like a remix version or another song, but there's just really one song. And oftentimes that's what I would get. They're cheaper, and I just get to pick the songs that I want. And the one song that I loved at the time was this group called Jodeci was really popular, and they have these great songs. My favorite is "Come and Talk to Me." But they did a cover, so they did a live session on MTV. This is when MTV actually had music, and they did this live session. And MTV had this thing called Unplugged, and they would bring in different music groups, and these music groups or people would sing just acoustically, right, without any electric stuff or whatever, like synthesized stuff, and Jodeci, two brothers, Casey and JoJo, they did they redid a song by Stevie Wonder called "Lately." And I encourage you guys to go look this up. If you guys can find it somewhere streaming, go for it. But they did this song called "Lately," and I absolutely loved it. And in this song, it builds up, right? It builds up to this point where they're just going off on riffs, right? And I can't sing, nor am I gonna do that here on video. But I'm listening to this song in the car, and I'm driving. It's like early in the morning, and I'm driving, and I get passionate when I sing sometimes. And my friends know that when I like start singing and I get into it, I close my eyes. I like close my eyes, and I like close them tight, and I'm just singing the song. And that's what I ended up doing as it was building and getting to this climax of the song. And I I closed my eyes for a little too long, right? And I wasn't paying attention to the road. And as I'm like singing like crazy, I just boom, boom. I feel two like big bumps, right? And it's like jolts my body. And I open my eyes, and I'm like, what the heck happened? And what happened was is that I wasn't paying attention, and I started like steering towards the right a bit, and I jumped the curb. I jumped the curb. And I was going at enough of a speed when I jumped the curb, it blew out both tires on my right side. And not only that, I I I hit two little like baby trees. I like knocked over these baby trees. And I'm like, oh gosh. Like this is like OG distracted driving, right? I didn't even have a cell phone. There was like nothing to do other than sing, and I still like was distracted. And long story short, like, I didn't get a ticket, but yeah, that's it sucked. It sucked big time. And so so some of that hasn't changed, right? I still sometimes get lost in music, and but I think that story is somewhat is relatable to you guys, right? You guys oftentimes get distracted. Please don't. Please just put your phone away. And when you sing in the car, don't close your eyes for an extended period of time. You can sing passionately in your room or elsewhere. Just don't do it in the car with your eyes closed, because you might blow out your tires and knock over some trees. So don't do that. All right, don't do that. So I share that just again, so that you guys get to know a little bit about me and how silly I can be, and probably how I drive my wife crazy, because some of that stuff just hasn't changed. And when you got a grown man doing that kind of stuff, it can be frustrating, right? It can be frustrating. But I also think that life is a little bit more interesting because of that. Or at least that's how I rationalize that about myself. So last time I shared about us, right? People on the outside being brought into the center by Jesus. And that's where God wants to elevate us. Those that are marginalized, those that are oppressed, those that are told you don't belong. God is in fact saying, no, you do. And I just want, and that a lot of times feels like to be true all the time for people like me, people of color, and it's hard to wade through that noise. It's hard to wade through all these walls that seem to be there. And oftentimes in those cases, you lose hope. But the more that I look into Jesus and his works and his teachings, I find him saying the very opposite. I find him saying and doing the very opposite. And this next story I want to share about you guys is another example of Jesus doing exactly that. So Jesus is doing all this miraculous work and healing people and making people feel accepted and doing these crazy, crazy, awesome works. And word travels fast, right? And Jesus came upon this town and by boat. And when he got off the boat, there was this religious leader named Jairus that came up. And this guy was a man of influence. This guy was a man of stature, and he's respected, and he's got a lot of resources. And this guy desperately comes to Jesus as soon as he gets off the boat and says, Jesus, my daughter is dying. And I so desperately need you to come to my home and heal her. And I can understand the desperation of this guy, Jairus. Like, I have a daughter, and if she was sick and she was dying, I would do everything that I could to convince Jesus to come. And I knew that Jesus could do and heal her. I would go and find him and convince him to come to my home, because I want my daughter to live. Because I love my daughter. Like, daughters are the best. I am a girl dad through and through. And Logan has absolutely melted my heart. And I'm sure that was the case for Jairus and his daughter. And so Jesus is like, okay, I'll go. And so he walks with them. And this crowd follows them, right? This crowd follows them. And what happens along the way is in this story, they tell of this woman. This woman has been bleeding for 12 years. She's been hemorrhaging for 12 years. And, I haven't had some sort of illness for an extended period of time. I've had like an appendicitis or something like, that's maybe the worst thing that I've had. But I, you know, or broken a bone, but I've had nothing that like has gone on for a while. And this woman has been suffering for 12 years, and she's gone to all the doctors that she can, and they can't help her. Right, and she spent all the money that she has to get herself better, but she spent all of that. And as time goes on, she seems to be getting worse and worse, and so she's desperate. And when people are sick in this time of history, not so much unlike today, when people are sick, like they get pushed off to the side, right? Like something about them, there's something wrong with them, and if I associate with that, I too might get sick. Or she must have done a lot of bad things, or her family must have done a lot of bad things for her to be the way that she is. And we don't want to associate that. And this woman, again, spent all her money. She has no resources. And can you imagine just not only being sick, but probably going hungry, probably not having a home. And so she desperately just wants to be healed. She just wants to be well. She wants people to look at her, not out of disgust and not out of pity, but to see her for who she is, and that's a person. Right, and I mentioned that we were all made in the image of God, and I think her, like the image of God, that people weren't able to see that, like her light that I mentioned before too, it's dimmed quite significantly, and I think her world was full of darkness because of feeling alone and sick. And so for her, this was like her last ditch effort. She's like, I gotta try. I've heard about this Jesus guy, and I've just gotta try to. Maybe if I can just even touch him. Maybe if I just touch, not just even him, but just his cloak. I just need to do something. And I think maybe I'm hoping that might even do the trick. And so she like fights through the crowd. And I imagine she's like, really what she's doing is like crawling through the crowd because of just her health. And she gets far enough to a point where Jesus is coming by. And as he walks by, she just extends her hand and she just touches him. And immediately it says that she felt that she got better instantly. That she got better right then and there. And Jesus then stops. In the middle of this big crowd, Jesus stops. And he says, who touched me? Who touched me? And I just want to stop right there because I'm sure in this moment, Jairus is like, and everybody else is like, what are you talking about? There's so many people actually literally touching you. What do you mean who touched you? Everybody's been touching you. Everybody wants a piece of you. But my daughter is dying at home right now. And you said you were going to come. And every second that passes by she gets closer to dying. So I need you to not waste any more time and just come along. Let's keep going. But Jesus was like, no, wait, somebody touched me. Who touched me? And this woman, and I think he did this on purpose because he knew who did. I think he knew who he did. And what he wanted to do in that moment, what Jesus wanted to do in that moment, is center this woman. For so long, for 12 years, she's probably gone unnoticed. Either she's gone unnoticed or she's been pushed out to the furthest out, right? She's been marginalized and oppressed. And she's been pushed out and nobody pays any attention to her. Nobody. And here's this guy, Jairus, who everybody knows, who everybody probably pays attention to, a man of privilege, and he says, check your privilege. Just hold it. Hold it. I'm not saying I don't care about you, but just check your privilege for a moment because this woman's been suffering for 12 years. And she's just gotten better. And I know that she can just move on, but I want to bring attention to her. I want everybody here to see her. I want everybody here to look at this woman. And I want them to see that this woman isn't somebody to be pushed out. This woman isn't somebody to neglect. This woman is part of your community. This woman deserves all the respect that you, Jairus, receive. And for too long, she's gone without it. And so I believe that this is just another instance of Jesus saying, look, who you thought was out is actually in. And I love them dearly, and you should too. This isn't just about the woman. This is a call to everybody there to say, open your eyes and recognize and look for the people on the outside, because we got to bring them into the center. We've got to hear their stories. We've got to listen to them. We've got to help them. And those in privilege, check it. I'm not saying that I'm not going to help you, because what we later find out is that as soon as that's all done, Jesus continues on to Jairus' home and heals his daughter, right? And in that middle of that daughter dies in the story. She dies. And I can only imagine, again, I said I'm a girl dad. I love my daughter. And I can only imagine Jairus being like, what? Because of that, my daughter has now died. And I can't imagine the anger he might have felt. The sorrow that he had felt. But Jesus makes that better. Now, you've got to understand, I'm not here to tell you that everything is going to be okay. This life that we live, there's a lot of pain, right? There's a lot of pain in that. And sometimes it's not going to go the way we want it to. And I don't know if that's God's plan. I don't know if God's plan is for us to feel pain and for us to suffer losses. I don't believe in that. Like, what kind of God, a loving God out there, would tell a mom who's just lost a child that was his plan to take away that child? That just seems crazy to me. That just doesn't feel right. It doesn't sit well. And I don't believe that, right? So I'm not here to tell you that all things are going to be well. What I do think, though, is that in this story, what God is trying to share with us through Jesus is, again, like life is gonna have its ups and downs, and there's gonna be some pain. But in all the workings of way life works and how society is, like, I just want you guys to partner with me in including those that are hurting. Be with those that are suffering, right? And those that are on the outside, let's bring them in on the inside, because their stories matter. They shouldn't be felt like they're not included. And because they're a part of my family too. I think that's what God is saying. And that's what Jesus is trying to communicate. And I know that there's a lot of this story brings a lot more questions maybe than answers, right? But at the center of that, saying, those that go unseen, let's put eyes on them. Those that go unnoticed, let's look at them. Let's acknowledge them. Let's listen to them. And sometimes it's going to be uncomfortable for some of us who haven't always experienced that. Where most of our lives we've had a lot of good stuff happen. When that happens, and then all of a sudden we get checked, and we have to put our life on hold, or things don't go our way, and then there's other people that need attention too, and then we kind of have to wait. That's uncomfortable. But I think that's what this story illustrates, is that sometimes we need to be made uncomfortable, especially those of us that have a lot of privilege, that have been given a lot in life, because there's others out there that have suffered an immense amount of loss too. But in all of that, you can see that Jesus doesn't abandon either. Jesus is right there with everyone, both. But there's gonna be some times when it's uncomfortable, and I think that's okay. I don't have the answers to that, and I hope that when life hits me in the face, and things are hard, that I don't forget that too, and that I lean on God and Jesus, to know that I am loved and that I am not abandoned. And I think in that moment, what we also see is that Jesus is right there feeling the pain of this woman, and he feels and acknowledges the pain of Jairus. And I think what that represents, that if Jesus really is God, that this is God saying, I feel you too, and I'm sorry. And I cry right along with you, and I kneel down on the ground along with you. And that's the kind of a God that, again, I want to follow. And that's why I pour myself into wanting to learn more about that God and wanting to follow that God. And I hope that you guys also do it too. Thanks.